Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. It's a pleasure to be here with you for another week. It's been rainy, New York. The weather hasn't been great. Looking forward to some more consistent warmth. I think 2024 has now been listed as the rainiest year on record, so I'm hoping that with all the blessings of rain, we'll have some sunshine to take us through the summer so that we can enjoy it before the winter season again. This week, I am a little bit under the weather. When I come back, I'll explain to you what's going on before I start the episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about the next generation and the state of the world that we're leaving them to deal with. There's so many challenges that are out there, and many of them are our fault. So when I come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'll be right back with you. All right, welcome back to this new episode for this week. Like I said, we're going to talk a bit about what we're leaving to the next generation and the challenges that we're leaving in the world that we're leaving them in. Before I start, a couple of things. I want to offer my condolences. And this past week, for those of you who are like me, who like jazz and contemporary jazz, we lost a great in David Sanborn. Died from pancreatic cancer, not pancreatic, I think prostate cancer at the age of 78. It always bothers me that we've done so much to advance in medicine, and whether these research companies and these companies that make a lot of money, these drug companies that make a lot of money off of drugs, are really doing their best to advance medicine and to be able to help us to recover from these illnesses. Cancer's been around, it seems like forever now, and it just seems to be wreaking havoc more and more each year. So to the family and the fans of David Sanborn, a real jazz great, may he rest in peace. Also, this episode this week will be short. I know that I usually say that, and same thing happens, it goes on, but I'm not feeling well this week. So if I look a little bit under the weather, I am. I'll give you a quick summary of what happened. Last Friday night, I took my wife out to, I would say, to a high-end scale restaurant that we've been to once before that we really loved. And I had salmon truffles or something called like that. And then for my main course, I had the salmon again with spinach rice and something else, steamed broccoli or something like that. But nevertheless, food tasted delicious at the time. But I got a massive case of food poisoning. So much so that I've had food poisoning before and I've allowed it to go through my system. I've been fine. But by the time Tuesday came, so it started Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I had to go to urgent care, emergency care, and they had to give me antibiotics to help me out with the situation. So I'm still feeling a bit under the weather. And to be honest with you, I did think about just having a rerun episode this week because I'm really not feeling up to it. But I looked at the responses to my last episodes, and I'm so thankful and grateful. Let me say this to all you new subscribers. There have been just several hundred new subscribers in the last week, and so I thank you for your support and for your interest. I thank you for those of you who have been sharing, and I am humbled by the fact that this podcast is becoming more popular and more people are becoming a part of this journey. I'm using a new mic system tonight. I keep testing out different systems, trying to get you the best audio. I haven't tuned this in perfectly, and I'm hearing a little feedback in my ear, so hopefully it sounds okay by the time I edit it and post it for you guys to listen to. And you can tell me how it sounds on your end. Nevertheless, let's get into the quick episode this week. And I'm talking about what are we leaving our next generation. I wrote some notes down. And one of the biggest things it seems that we're leaving them is debt. Now, student loan debt is one of those things. I heard some report that the new generation, Generation Z, has way more credit card debt and debt from borrowing than we had. And there are a lot of factors that contribute to them. I can't get into all those factors now, but the fact is that the ones I can plead about, again, as more of you are listening, is the student loan debt. You know, it bothers me when I hear politicians say, well, we had to pay it back, so why don't they? We're supposed to be evolving, progressing, and it's not the same. I mean, I feel that the education I got was a lot better than the education being offered today, and not at the cost. I remember when I was going to college, it was about, I'm not 100% sure, but let's say around a little over $3,000 a semester. Which, you know, if you did two semesters, you're at 6,000 somewhere around. And then there was a point where after a certain dollar amount, it flattened out where the more credits you took, it still didn't increase. That was the flat rate for full time. That same, I won't name the university, but now I'm hearing it's like more like $40,000 a year, like $20,000 a semester. How did that happen? How did that happen in a society in a time where people are coming out of college and can't get jobs, where the income that we're ready to pay people right out of college with a bachelor's, and I'm talking about $20,000 a semester with bachelor's. So you imagine your bachelor's that cost us maybe $30,000 for a bachelor's is now costing $120,000 to $160,000 for a bachelor's. And when you come out, it has so little value. Bachelor's used to be something, the bachelor's degree used to be something impressive and honorable to get, and the achievement was enough to carry you through life. Now it's just like a high school diploma. And so we're saddling the next generation with that, and we're giving them reasons not to be educated formally. Now you have a subset who have gone to things like TikTok and the social media, and they've been entrepreneurs and they've made millions. But that does not represent the masses. The masses of people are struggling, are suffering, because they cannot afford this debt. Look at what we're doing in fighting President Biden to forgive debt that we should be. These people who have gone to college, who have this debt, are working here in the United States, giving back to society. Some of them can't even find jobs. Those who are finding jobs at such low incomes that they can't afford to live. I'm not talking about buying a house, buying a mansion, buying a fancy car. I'm talking about paying rent. The median rent in Manhattan, in New York City, just went up. I forgot by how much percentage, but they're saying it's about $4,200 a month. Most of these people are making like $2,000 a month if they're lucky, to pay rent, to pay transportation, to pay light, to pay gas, to eat, to clothe themselves. You want them to come to work looking decent, but they can't afford to buy decent clothes. What are we doing? Are we on a mission to make sure that the next generation feels so inferior to us because we've put them in the position where they can't succeed, at least the masses? We need to think this through. This selfishness going on between Republicans and Democrats, and being so unforgiving. And what hurts me is so many of these politicians, I keep repeating it, they were able to get millions of dollars of PPP loans forgiven after COVID, but they don't want to forgive $30,000 in debt. How can you say that forgiving these students will have such an impact on our finances as a country when millions of dollars got forgiven for our politicians? We're doing millions, trillions of dollars of aid packages to Ukraine, to Israel, to all these places. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but charity begins at home. Why is it so easy for the politicians in Washington to get together and approve $1 trillion package for a foreign war, but not for a student loan debt in our country that will benefit America? And it has to be Americans first, and it is not. It is politics first. What are we doing? What are we saddling? What are we telling our next generation? What are we saddling them with? What kind of hope and dreams are we giving them when we're creating an environment that this is not sustainable for them? As I'm looking at my notes here, I think about, again, the education challenges. I talk to so many young people now who tell me point blank they're not going to college. They're going to go on social media, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And let me tell you, as someone who is on social media myself, I've got tech channels where I do reviews and where I do tech gear and stuff like that. I've got this podcast. I have a presence on social media. I used to be a videographer. I don't do videography that much anymore. A photographer. Everyone is fighting the same battle. It is not easy out there. You've got to stand out. And even then, standing out, so many people are standing out that there's less and less to go around. That's not a sustainable future for most. Then think about what lessons we're teaching them. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at some notes, but what lessons are we teaching them? What are we teaching them that's going on in society today about morals and ethics and what's okay? What are we teaching them when we look at what our politicians are doing? I don't have to call names of anyone. What our politicians, period, across the board is doing. And Americans, we as Americans, have decided that morals and ethics are no longer measuring sticks for the people we hold to the highest office and the highest esteem to run this country, to make decisions for us. We're willing to forego and forgive blatant atrocities against women, against LGBTQI, against minorities, people of color. We're willing to turn the blind eye to that for profit and greed. And for those of us who want to sustain hate and division and segregation based on the color of our skins. We're willing to do all of that and accept anyone who's willing to push our cause forward to hurt another class, another section of our population, to make us feel inferior, to make them feel inferior, to make us feel superior, to make one class feel superior to another. We are willing to crush via ethnic, ethnic oppression, moral oppression. It used to be that when you stepped into the race for the highest offices in this land, that you had to meet a certain moral standard. That is out the window. You had to behave a certain way. You had to speak a certain way. You had to look a certain way. You had to engage the American people in the majority and promise and show by your actions and by your history that you can uphold the oath and that you can honor those who've elected you. Remember, you're elected by the people, for the people. But we're now sending a message to not only to America, but to the world that none of that matters. We still want to be held as a measuring stick to the rest of the world, but what a poor example we're becoming. Because we have decided that what's important is not who we are in terms of the standards and moral and ethical standards we stand by, but rather who we are by the color of our skins and the wealth that we have. What kind of message are we leaving the next generation? And what kind of world and ability to survive are we leaving them? Look at the race relations around the world. And when I say race relations, it's not just people of color. It's ethnic relations. It's division that we're creating everywhere in the world. Look at the turmoil worldwide. Look at the Palestinian-Israeli war. Look at the Ukraine-Russia war. Look at the things that are going on in Africa and Iran and in Syria. We don't have a plan to fix any of this. It's just one retaliation after another. It's one group deciding that they want to do the best to harm another. We are more interested now in making sure that we're superior in the ability to wipe out other races than to be humane. Everyone knows that the direction the world is going now is not sustainable. And when we leave here, we are leaving the next generation to deal with this mess. And we're leaving them a message that division is okay, that they don't have to solve problems and be united. The only thing that matters is superiority of one over the other, whatever class or whatever that's involved in. That is weapons, that is money, that is ethnicity, all the same. Even gender. We have people who died for equality. We talk about all the civil rights fights and wars that we've gone through. And all of that seems to be going down the drain. All of that seems to be in vain. We are spitting in the faces of those who lost their lives and gave their lives for a better world, a more equal world, a more peaceful world, a more united world, a world where we look at each other as the same, a world where our hearts and our eyes and everything evoked empathy and understanding for each other wherever we are in the world, acceptance of our differences. Instead, we are killing each other for it. We are fighting each other over the things that we should be united about. It worries me what my children and what my grandchildren will deal with, what they will have to face as they try to simply survive. Things that I thought would not be obstacles have risen to become some major obstacles again. We have not evolved. We're in a cycle that's gone backwards into a place of destruction. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." He must be rolling in his grave, for while we have made progress, the ugly head of racism and hatred and division and segregation is now threatening to undo all that was done. And we are letting it happen. We are okay to put people on a pedestal. For those of us like me who believe in our Creator and Almighty God, that's who belongs on the pedestal. But we are willing to have one human being or another human being who doesn't even know us, who doesn't care about us. We are willing to I'm talking about not just the United States, all over the world. We are willing to uphold and uplift one person or people or a set of people or a set of denominations or a set of religious beliefs, whatever you are across the world, over another. Are we willing to kill for it? Some are willing to die for it. For what? We have to do something to change the direction that we're going in. Or when we look into our children's eyes, we have to look at them with tears, and through the tears let them know that we apologize for the world that we're leaving them to struggle in, to fight in, to survive in. We didn't have that growing up. Even when, at least I didn't have that. Yes, generations before did. But the progress we made was supposed to free us from that bondage. And all I see everywhere I look are just new sort of morphed struggles that have morphed into something that resembles back then, just looks in a different way. But the threat is just as great. Our children are less confident. Our children have less hope. Our children are looking upon a generation before them that is not leaving anything to give them a chance to not only equal us, but to be better than us. That's what we're supposed to do. When you speak to most parents, what do they say? I'm doing this, I'm making this sacrifice so my children would have a better life. Meanwhile, we have ignored our duty to the next generation. And we become wrapped up in a fight of this generation over things that have no value in human life. And when I say no value, I mean no value because I'll tell you, you can escape a lot. You can build all the wealth you want. You can crush all the other human beings you want. But the day will come when you and I will be no more. That you cannot escape. If you ever sit and really think about it, it's so important that we live lives to a certain level of excellence, because it is all we have to measure ourselves by when we leave here. What legacy do you want us to have? Do you want us to have a legacy that says that we built a better world and a better environment and a better human relationship and all these things for our next generation? Do you want to leave a legacy that says we were here and we left here better than when we arrived? Or do you want the next generation to remember us only by the destruction and the difficulty and the hardships we left upon them because we became so selfish and greedy and self-centered and narcissistic that we failed to realize our duty as human beings? It's nice to feel powerful because of race, creed, color, or wealth. But that's a fallacy, it's a myth. Every single day we wake up to news that someone else has departed this earth. And none of those things were able to buy you a ticket out of death. It's one life, one journey, and we need to make it count for the next generation. I just want to leave you with those thoughts because I'm hoping they're provocative. And I'm hoping that enough of you, as I see my subscribers increase, will join this fight. Yes, I know it's a huge one. But the more of us that join it, the more of us that make a difference, the more of us that come together, unite and share ideas of positivity and change, the more it will happen. Every single movement in history started with someone believing and having a dream. It's not too late for us to do something better for the next generation. If we keep on the path of destruction that we are following now, oh, what a tearful life it will be for those to come. Think about it. Send me an email, podcast@247realtalk.net. Send me your ideas. Even if you have differences in opinion, send them to me in a respectful way. I will respond. May take me some time, but I will. And based on what the discussions are, not only will I continue to voice them on this podcast, but I'm now moving over to video podcasts. And I'd like to have more guests on here who bring the positivity. And even if there are differences, let's discuss them face to face for the world to see and hear, and get more people to join as part of the solution and not just live life every day going along as part of the problem, either being oblivious to what's going on around us or being too self-occupied and preoccupied to recognize that it takes each one of us to build this village for the next generation. I thank you as always for being able to be a part of your homes and your lives. Again, I am humbled by the new onslaught of subscribers, and I thank you so much. I hope and pray that you will continue to sit with me, to stand with me, to walk with me, to talk with me, and to fight this battle for change. So at the end of our lives, we can look back and say, we did good. Do have a great weekend and a great week ahead. I look forward to your feedback on this episode. I look forward to the guests that are going to come on soon as I work with them to schedule. I hope you'll join me in welcoming them and embracing their voices as we stand as one voice. Real talk for real change. Until the next time, take care of yourselves. And please take care of each other.